Welcome everyone back to the second floor. I'm your co-host Omid, and today we have a special guest. We are here to learn how to survive, how to thrive, and how to keep the good vibes in your life and business. Today we have Michael Cathrea. He is the co-founder and president of Resonate Music School and Studio, and also co-founder of the Resonate Music Foundation. Resonate has received multiple awards, including the publicly voted Top Choice Award for 5 years in a row. And Michael has been named Edmontonian's Top 20 Under 30, as well as one of 20 recipients of the Business in Edmonton Leaders Award for 2018. He's also the Alberta representative for Breakthrough Graded Curriculum for Popular Music called Rock School. Michael has been invited to be a speaker at the NAM, National Associations of Music and Merchants Convention, which is held in Anaheim, California, and sees over 130,000 attendees to give some insights in how Resonate has rocketed to one of the largest operations in its industry in just 6 years. I know Mike from back in the day from high school, so this is super exciting. So Mike, thanks man for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is very exciting.
Yes. I know I should have done a little bit of background on you. I had an idea of what you've done.
Yeah. No, that's all good. We'll get into it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get into your backstory.
Sure.
Before Resonate became this thing.
Yeah.
Before the successes, before things started to really pop off.
Sure.
How did you get into music? And then how did that kind of translate into Resonate and the whole entrepreneur route?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as far as music goes, I mean, I've always had a passion for music, but I don't think that's anything special. I think most people do, whether they let it open or not.
Yeah.
But it would have started with learning bass guitar when I was a teenager. We had a neighborhood band, and they needed a bass guitar player. I knew absolutely nothing about it, so picked up bass, started taking lessons, but I only took the lessons for a couple of years, maybe at the most, and then quit. And looking back, I don't really know why I quit per se. You know, maybe focus more on basketball, skateboarding, snowboarding, whatever, right? Sort of as you know, but always sort of stay consistent with always really enjoying music. And then later on in high school, started to get into songwriting, built sort of like a little home studio type of thing, got into production, that sort of thing. And then later on ended up just taking clients in, recording at the place, started producing music for other people, which was never the intent. It was always just like a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And it just sort of became a part-time thing, which eventually flourished into the full-time thing that it kind of is now.
This was back, correct me if I'm wrong, this was back in high school, or was it before that?
No, it really would have been high school.
Yeah,
it would have been high school for sure. A couple of high school friends, wanted to rap, wanted to write music, that sort of thing. So I jumped in there, not knowing what we were doing. And like I said, it sort of started with our own music, just messing around, getting a mic, basically in the bedroom. That was the first studio, right? It was just a mic in the bedroom and producing, messing around with our own music. And then there was never really the intent to make that a career ever, not as far as like as our own music or even thinking to have a recording studio or a school, at least not at that point. It was sort of years after, not too long, maybe 5 years after high school or so, where one of my partners, Justin McDonough, his name, I started taking lessons from him, actually, engineering lessons.
Oh, no way.
Because I was building this studio in the house, basically in my parents' basement at the time, because I still would have been living at home.
Yeah.
And again, just wanted to build a recording studio space, small, just to make music, again, just as a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And took some lessons from him, and we started chatting, and I had friends of friends who wanted to record, so all of a sudden there was clients there, and we started chatting about it, and he knew a lot more. I seemed to have people who wanted to come and record and had a decently good sound treated space.
Yeah.
And so we decided to partner up and started a production company, basically doing audio production and engineering out of each of our respective basements while we had our sort of full-time endeavors. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so kind of, again, even at that time, I don't think it was ever the intention of like, is this going to be our full-time jobs?
Yeah.
Just never really expected it, so it wasn't really ever the plan. Yeah.
So what was your plan?
Yeah.
Going out of high school?
Sure.
What did you do?
Yeah, well, I was in the car business, funny enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty much out of high school, because that was one of my part-time jobs. Like when I was in high school, as soon as I could work, that was pretty much all I was interested in. I was pretty disenchanted with school in general.
Yeah.
Elementary, junior high was fine, but once high school rolled around, and you start to become a little bit more specialized in your interests.
Yeah.
You start to think, if I'm not interested in this stuff, I didn't really see the point in, sitting there and listening and going through the motions and that.
And you didn't have any pressure from like parents or any like your parents?
For sure. Yeah. No, I think ideally my parents would have loved for me to like, go off to post-secondary university. Yeah. That's the thing I haven't. Like I have no post-secondary education in business or in music.
Yeah.
That's probably why I make so many mistakes. But yeah, so it was basically I was like a part-time like car detailer. Worked as a lot boy, and then that was during high school. So I was spending more time probably working than I actually was at school. I tried doing. I had a little clothing company, right? That we tried doing. So in one of the classes, I was teaching screen printing. So then. Started doing graphic design.
So this was kind of your way of like, you were trying to figure kind of a creative outlet as far as like, or making some money on the side.
I guess, yeah. I guess it was just sort of that like entrepreneurial sort of nature, maybe coming through a little bit earlier in that sense. I think that was what it was with the music. Because even when we were making our own music in high school, we had merchandise, right? Yeah. We had t-shirts and hats, and we had kids who would come from, I had a few friends who were at the junior high, we were at the high school, and they would come over and I'd give them like a box of t-shirts and CDs, and they would go and sell it and bring it back, Funny enough, nice. Kind of like a drug dealer would work.
Wow.
But it was with music and merchandise, and we would use that to then buy better equipment.
Yeah.
And then from the clothing side, again, I was just doing graphic design on t-shirts, and my locker was full of more shirts than it was binders until the school finally shut me down. Because I wasn't paying for the ink.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and they weren't interested in making any sort of deal. And once I saw that, like they weren't supportive of sort of entrepreneurship. You weren't learning a lot about life. Business was not anything that was taught in high school. Yeah. I don't know how much that's changed, but there just really wasn't that much that was interesting to me. Yeah. So because of that, I worked a lot. Consequently, my grades went into the gutter. So post-secondary wouldn't have even been an option for me, funny enough.
Yeah.
But I wasn't interested in it anymore. So I got offered a sales job basically when I graduated, working at a car dealership.
Yeah.
So I did that for a year, and then eventually the owner of the dealership sort of created this new position for me, which is more of like a management position in multiple roles, and I was kind of mentoring under him a little bit, which was really good. It was way over my head, more work than I knew what I was doing, right? But sort of gave me an opportunity to see kind of how a business worked a little bit more, and that really piqued my interest. So initially I thought, because I didn't have any sort of background skills, really, again, I wasn't ever considering music to be like a serious avenue to go. I thought, maybe it's a car business. Maybe I'll own car dealerships because I love cars, right? But I found that there was a lot about that industry that I didn't like, right? Gotcha. There's still, I still have a soft spot for it, for sure. And I see myself in like retirement going and like selling high-end cars just for fun because I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the people.
Yeah.
But there was still, those aspects of selling something that maybe wasn't the best fit.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which is nice because we don't deal with that anymore. Mm-hmm. So that was more sort of the venture that we were kind of in. Mm-hmm. Now, eventually I left there, moved to another dealership. And then,
so this was you in the management role?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was in there for a couple of years. I think I was at that dealership for maybe 4 years, including high school. Then ended up leaving there. It just wasn't the right environment for me anymore, and I very much found myself a little upside down, not sure what I wanted to do.
Gotcha.
And that's when I really got heavily into sort of self-teaching, self-education.
And how old were you at this point?
That's a good question. 20, maybe?
20, okay.
19 or 20. Yeah.
So you had worked a couple of years?
Yeah. I was in sales for about a year, and then I guess this management role for maybe a year or two, something like that, maybe a couple of years. So maybe it would have been like 19 or 20 years old.
Yeah.
And then ended up leaving there, and kind of I think it was a few months of not really sure like kind of what I wanted to do. So that's when I really got interested in like economics and business and all these things. Started reading these books. Which was a little bit of point of contention in the house because it was you should be out there hammering the pavement with resumes or picking a career and following a career path. But
it
was pretty clear to me early on that that's not really the way I wanted to go. Like I was starting to at least get a pretty good handle on the idea that I would eventually work for myself or be in some sort of entrepreneurial position. So, but pretty quickly I ended up getting a position at another dealership because, again, that's the only skill set I had. That's the only experience I had. So I ended up working at another dealership. And around the same time is when I built the home studio in the basement, met Justin, and we were sort of doing that part-time. So that was never meant to be, as far as the other dealership that I was at and the position that I was at there, it was never meant to be something I would do really long-term. I think it started to feel like, oh, maybe we can build the studio thing into something, or let's just kind of see where it goes. Essentially, gotcha. Right? Yeah. Try to put some money away, still try to be learning as much as I can. I know I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, but I'm still trying to figure out what direction I kind of want to go in. Yeah. So, I did that for a couple of years. And then there was the opportunity there was an extension of that dealership that was in accessories, like truck accessories and things like that. Yeah. And it's funny, I think this is the first time I've ever publicly told this story. Yeah. But there was the opportunity to go into that venture, essentially. Okay. And they wanted the guy who sort of ran that department, they were looking at expanding it, doing multiplications, and wanted me to come on and be essentially the manager of one of these locations. So that was really exciting for me. It at first it meant relocating to another city, but the opportunity sounded exciting. It was a chance to maybe run a shop, run a store, run a staff, that sort of thing, and that was really appealing. And we thought that, so I essentially thought, okay, this is the way that's going to go. And this would have been say maybe in the spring when I got that opportunity, and it was going to kind of start in the fall. So I took the summer off thinking, okay, this is my career path now. This is where I'm going to go. I'm going to be relocating to another city and started investing in that. And that sort of went sideways, long story short, over the period of a few months. But the partnership that I sort of had went pretty sideways. Oh, okay. And in a short matter of time, I was left basically high and dry, thinking that this was a direction I was going to go. This is going to be my career. I started, investing into it as far as learning the industry, because it was an industry I didn't know. Yeah. But I think they wanted me to come on because my strength was creating systems, was improving operations. When I come to this dealership, they sort of had a very archaic way of doing a lot of things. So it was kind of my job to make it more efficient, to improve it. And that's sort of what they wanted to carry over. So I thought that was the way it was going to go. And and basically like that, in a second, it was kind of over. Wow. And my partner sort of pulled the plug on me. And then I was left with trying to figure out what I was going to do, because now I had no idea. And I was left with this very bitter taste in my mouth. I was just very bitter, very upset, and it's sort of a state of shock because it came out of nowhere. Yeah. And I didn't really see the ulterior motives that were happening. I didn't see the things that were happening in the background, and the leverage that I was creating being used by the benefit of somebody else to essentially, skirt me out or stab you in the back, if you want to say that. And again, not to speak ill about it. I've sort of obviously moved past that, and it was clearly for the better. But in the present moment, it was a shock. Yeah, definitely. For sure. So after that, I was sort of left just, again, same thing. What am I going to do? Jump back into the books, jumped into music a little bit more because I sort of had this, and we had the production company on the side at the time. Yeah. Is that the direction am I going to go? What am I really going to do? So I actually ended up going on your classic sort of cliche find yourself trip. I went to New Zealand for a month, sort of on a whim. I had a friend who was down there. Yeah. And I was talking to her, and she said, I'm in New Zealand. And I was like, I'm unemployed. I'm doing nothing right now. Yeah. So why don't you come? And I don't know how serious she was, but I sort of looked at it and thought, I've got nothing better to do. Yeah. I might as well. I was deep into the Steve Jobs book by Walter Isaac there, and just and I was sort of at the point of his story where he was sort of traveling and figuring out what he was going to do next. So I thought, this can't hurt. Yeah. I'll go there and just to even figure out, am I on the right path? Am I thinking the right way at all? Am I totally off base? So I went there and decided I'm just going to get out of my comfort zone in everything. Every time there's an opportunity, I'm saying yes to it, whatever it is. Oh, and, okay, yeah. If there's something that is crosses a fear of mine that I have, I'm going to do it. I have a fear of heights, and one of the largest bungee jumps is in New Zealand. So I just...
Did you end up
doing it?
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. I did
so you just took on everything that was what that was there.
Absolutely.
Any opportunity, you were just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. And like, again, I was not a traveler. Like, my mindset before was very much like, you should work. Like, I didn't really agree with like finishing high school and then going and traveling abroad. I was like, I'll travel in the later half of my life when I've made some money and I can travel the way I want to travel. Yeah. Right. So that wasn't something I was ever interested in doing. It was not part of my character to just go in on a bus with strangers for a month, you know, and travel around. I have to meet these people. I didn't like that. I sort of had my core group of people and build relationships with, and that was good enough for me. Yeah. And I just wanted to work, you know, even at the dealerships. I worked a lot of hours.
You were a hustler.
I think it just, you know, work ethic was maybe instilled in me fairly young, and sort of have been a workaholic in that sense, or at least my problem is I get like sometimes really focused on things, and I'll just like, I obsess about it, and that's all I want to do. So if there happens to be a craft that I'm working on, then I'm very like kind of tunnel vision on it. So it was a weird thing to go over there, but I wanted to go there to gain some clarity. So about 3 weeks into the trip, after doing a whole bunch of stuff, we were kind of on the last leg of the trip, and we ended up in this little town called Kaikura, and it's this beautiful town where there's snow-capped mountains that come right down to the coastline, like something you just wouldn't really see in Canada. It was quite spectacular, and it was this black sand beach, kind of like heavy rocks, and there's nothing really going on that night. Again, small town, it would have been like a one-night stop type of thing. So I decided to just go for a walk by myself because everyone was just hanging out, chilling. Yeah. And I went on a walk that I think was probably 6 hours long, and I sort of was trailing the one way, and then the sun went down. Yeah. And I'd gone so far that I couldn't see like the little town coming back, so I turned around just like pitch black. Oh no! So I'm walking, and now at this point the water's coming up, and I'm just like soaked, and it was like rocky beach, so it was like terribly uncomfortable. But sort of the whole point is I wanted to go on that walk and try to almost like replay my life up until that point. And like people I had met, interests that I had, why I had sort of done certain things that I'd done, what I was interested in, all that sort of thing. To try to essentially connect the dots, to try to get some insight or vision as to what my next step was going to be and where I was going to go. Because I had, you know, there was the automotive side, which I had an interest in, but I didn't love the industry. You know, there's some questionable practices here and there. I think it's improved a lot, but regardless, that wasn't where I wanted to go back to, and I felt like I would have been taking a step backwards. And there was really just that, you know, I've loved art and music, and sort of as connecting the dots, that's really where I landed, was on the idea for Resonate, or at least the concept of like, I think that's where we're going to go, and that's going to be the opportunity. Because I started to think and revisit on, you know, I took music, but like, why did I quit? You know, I love it so much. Why didn't I keep going with it? And then I thought, how many other people share that exact same situation? Like, I liked my lessons when I took it. My teacher was one of the best in the city. He was awesome, but still, obviously, there wasn't something that was engaging me enough to go. And I just started to think on what was currently available in our market and the industry, and then there just started to be all these ways you could think to improve it. They weren't like genius ideas by any means. It wasn't rocket science. It was just like, hey, I think this industry could be a little bit more current, or even not to say that one was right or there's a right or wrong way of operating, but just there wasn't a lot of choice. Everything was basically the same, regardless of where you sort of went. I thought like, hey, I've got some ideas for how to improve it. A few now, and I'm sure there'll be more down the road. Maybe this is the direction that we sort of go in. And I kind of already had that partnership with Donna through the recording side of things. And we had talked in the past too about, you know, maybe one day we'll open a music school with it, and, you know, we'll combine the two or something along those lines, right? Yeah. But I don't know how realistic either of us ever thought that was going to be as an option, or when that would actually happen. I think we thought like maybe way down the road. But because I was sort of sitting in limbo in life, and I was ready to move forward on something, right? Like with the truck accessories, I thought we were opening up a location, getting the business. We had a business plan together, companies formed, like everything. I thought we were going. And I wasn't about to just like go back to the start and say, okay, I'm just going to go get another job again. And just go in a direction or spin my tires. I was sort of done with that. So I said, no, this is what we have to go. This is what we have to do. So it was kind of that light bulb moment. Now, I didn't have the whole business plan worked out. I didn't even know what we were going to call it at that point. You know, I didn't know we were going to do 90% of the stuff that we currently do. but I sort of knew that was the direction we wanted to go in.
Yeah, you picked there.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, I'm gonna try this and go full force into it.
Totally. So pretty much at that point, I was ready to come home. I came back, and it was just, and seeing everybody else too. Like the amazing thing was I met so many incredible people, right? Like on this trip, they were from all over the world. But there was one consistent thing with almost everybody is they were just traveling, like with no real goals of it. Of just the goal was to travel, to gain life experience, to just go from spot to spot. And maybe we stay.
There was no direction. It was
it was like maybe
I'm just gonna travel.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a job. Maybe we'll go to the next spot, right? And I realized pretty quickly that's not me. And I expected that wasn't me, or suspected that wasn't me, and I got clarity that it definitely was not me. I was like, this has been an awesome experience, but like I've hit my limit. Like I need to do something. I need to be productive. I need to create something. Yeah. Right. So at that point, I was ready to come back. Yeah. So that would have been in like May of 2012. When I came back, I met with Donna pretty quick, and was just like, hey, let's do this. Like I want to go this direction. Are you on board? Do you want to do this with me, type of thing? And he was like, yeah, okay, right? So because he was sort of in the same thing, like I mean he had a full-time job, but it wasn't something he wanted to do for the rest of his life either, and his skill set was in engineering and production. Like Dunn is one of the most creatively and talented people like I've ever met, and I think he needed a platform to just be able to do that. So that's why I sort of thought, well, maybe we can bring these two together. Maybe we can do a school and a studio. That isn't really a thing, and maybe a hybrid of that, not doing the retail side, and let's see if we can just make it. So yeah, that was in May. I think at the end of that month, like the corporations were formed, we started looking for a location. We had found one in June or July. August 1st, we had the keys, and we opened up mid-September. Like it was that fast.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it was that quick.
That's fast.
Yeah, and like there were the funny thing is there was like barely a business plan. Basically wasn't. It was in your head or verbal. And
so you were super assertive at that point when you came back. You just kind of you and Donna just.
It was just time to go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Justin's wife Megan, she came on with us as well, which was great. So she helped a lot with like the school side, right? And then we started bringing on the teachers and other staff, and just sort of going with it, and seeing if this was something we could make work. But it was like I said, it was a whirlwind. It was very quick, but I didn't want to wait another year, because I knew that the fall was going to be an important time for us to open up. It's back to school, right? That's when most people are going to run a register. And I thought, okay, well, we're either going to do it this September, or we're going to wait and do it, next fall or summer or whatever. And
you didn't want to wait.
No, I wasn't going to wait. At that point, there was no way I was waiting. I was very fortunate in that the people who I wanted to bring on as my partners were sort of gave the green light. They wanted to do it too, and they jumped on board. But I think regardless, it was something we were going to do, whether it was that or something else.
Where does the name come from?
Resonate?
What's the significance behind it?
Yeah, so I mean, right off the bat, we didn't want to like name the school after us. And not to say that's a bad thing by any means. A lot of people do that, and that's totally fine. And you especially if in family businesses, where ours isn't really a family business, it's more of a friend's business. Yeah. Right. But also, we didn't want the name of the company or anything like that to represent us so much as what we wanted to do and what we wanted to create. Yeah. And Resonate is very experience focused. It always has been. That was sort of one of the main things, was how can we sort of elevate the experience? How can we make learning music and creating it as exciting as listening to it when you're getting that new record? Yeah. Right? Like, there's just such a disconnect. There's such a gap there. So we wanted to create something that obviously had relevance to music. That was clear. But also had some sort of significance as far as like impact, and realizing that Resonate, the idea was to create this like sort of massive community of people, from our students to teachers to studio clients to just people who knew about us or even got inspired and took lessons elsewhere, like whatever. Yeah. But just wanted to, like my t-shirt says, let your sound resonate, which like let your voice be heard, or your instrument be heard, or on your own terms, in your own way. And and then we also wanted a word that was common in like everyday life, but was associated with something that would make an impact. So you hear in like big speeches, so people say, well, that resonates with me, right? When you hear something that connects with you, you say that resonates with me so often. So it sort of followed that connection we have to music, and that connection we wanted to create amongst so many people. So it was kind of the perfect thing. And Dan, actually, who I think we were sitting in a hot tub trying to come up with names, and Resonate popped out of his mouth, and it was kind of like as soon as he said it.
No way, this was Dan's idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were talking like a cadence or something. There's so many we were going off of.
Yeah, and none didn't really like stick.
No, I think we narrowed it down to like maybe 3 or 5 names, and Resonate was one of them, and that was the one that sort of stuck, and I'm glad it did because it's, people seem to really like it.
Yeah.
We really like it. I think it really encapsulates sort of what we want to do and what we're about. So, yeah, as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, Resonate, and then it started to come together. That was the thing, is it's been a constant process sort of from that day until now, where it's just totally changing, because I had no experience in this industry whatsoever outside of recording people and producing for them in my basement.
Yeah.
At a very entry level, right? But I'd never worked in a music school. So I knew nothing about that other than the couple of years I took in lessons as a teenager. Fortunately, Justin and Megan both had worked in schools, so they had a fairly good idea of how it worked. But I think we all knew that we didn't want to just do it like everybody else. That the whole idea was to offer another option, right, to the market and give them, just other ways of sort of doing things. Yeah. So, there's been tons of change because of that, because it's sort of constantly evolving, but also a lot of learning curve because, again, like I said, I had never been in it. So, and it all happened very, very fast. And like our first spot that we opened, it was 9 lesson rooms and 15 teachers and a recording studio facility, and that wasn't really a thing. Like, there are schools of that size already in the city, but they've been around for decades. So here we are starting from scratch, right? A lot of lesson programs started in somebody's house. They developed it over time via like doing basement lessons, and eventually get a small industrial space and sort of build it, or again, over the period of decades. That's sort of the norm. And all of a sudden we were going, no, we're going retail right off the bat. And we're going to open with the 9-room school, which would have been, I don't know, maybe the second largest or something like that in the city, second or third largest in the city. So yeah, there was a lot of, are you crazy?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Did you bite more than you could chew?
Oh yeah, and for sure we did.
Yeah.
Choked for quite some time.
Yeah.
In
so
that
maybe
sense.
I want to get into that. So
Yeah.
when you guys started, what were the, if you want to share, what were the hardships? What kind of things did you go through personally as now you're a full-on entrepreneur? Now you got to make this work. You got the keys.
Totally.
This is like you're going full force into this. So maybe talk about both personal struggles, but also the business, kind of handling the business and the day-to-day sort of thing. And how did you get over that?
Yeah, well, like I said, I hadn't gone to business school before. Nobody in the business had. And that side of it was on me. And not like as if it was pushed on me. I wanted that role. I took that. Like I wanted to run it and help with that and guide us and sort of lead us in the direction that we wanted to go. Yeah. But all I had to go off of was my previous experience in the auto industry, as far as from management and sales and seeing how things sort of worked in that sense. Yeah. Right. And then just instinct, really, like sort of blind instinct of just saying, okay, I think this is how it's going to go. And just working your tail off, right? So, yeah, it was super challenging because I'd never set up a business before. And all of a sudden, and service business is a totally different animal in the sense that, like, you have to perform a service to the customers right in front of you. Yeah. So you're handling everything, right? And whereas, making a product too, not to say that isn't difficult, that I think is maybe more so. But it's a little bit different, a little bit more behind the scenes. You can sort of develop your business behind the scenes where you're not as much maybe in the public eye with sort of everything that you're doing. So it was tricky. Everything from hiring, knowing how many people to hire. In the beginning we overhired because we just didn't know. We didn't know how many people were going to come in the door, how many people were you going to sign up, what are your operations going to be like. Just finding software that would work, right? Because that was the other tricky thing is our business model was totally different. So trying to find something that would work for that was not out there. Learning how all these things work, trying to basically piece it together. And then also we were fortunate in the sense that it was attractive to people very quickly on. Like when we opened our doors, we had 50 students pre-registered in the period of a few weeks. Which was a lot. We had over 200 students in our first year, and there's only a handful of schools who had that many students who've been open for quite some time. Yeah. Right. And it just sort of rocketed up to the point of now where we do, well over 1,000 lessons a week with 40 staff and are like one of the largest operations in North America. Yeah. In the period of just a few years versus decades. So One of the biggest struggles has just been growing too fast. Like controlled growth is definitely something to strive for.
Yeah.
But because we went retail and went with this big space and went with, we invested a lot into the space too, because one of the things we want to do is sound treat the rooms. Not 100% soundproofing, but more so because it wasn't a common thing that you could go into a school and go into a lesson room and it would be properly sound treated. You'd hear every other lesson going on around you. Right? I just, again, thinking back to my own experience, you couldn't play music in the lobby. It would disrupt the rest of the lessons. You had to be quiet, like a library, which is strange.
Yeah.
Music has an energy to it. You want to
you don't want to contain that.
No. So it was weird. So again, just trying to invest in the experience, we invested heavily in the sound treatment, creating this recording studio. So we had massive amounts of overhead, like right away, which was tough. Like not giving yourself time to sort of build and figure these things out. The learning curve was quite sharp, and it brought like a lot of challenges in that sense of just figuring out what to do, making a ton of mistakes, but trying to deal with the mistakes that were sort of costly. And I mean, the intent was always like, for the longest time, like for those first couple of years, I think I slept at home maybe 5 times at the most.
Wow.
I'd go home to shower in the afternoon once sort of the gang came in and there was someone in the front. Go home, shower, change, and come back, and basically lived there and slept on the couch in the studio. It wasn't until I got married and my wife finally dragged me home, and you got to sleep at home from now on, and which is probably a good thing because I don't know how much longer I could have kept that lifestyle going. But that's really tough because there was a lot of pressure, both personally and as a group, because you wanted everybody to succeed, right? You wanted all the employees to succeed and your customers to succeed, the business to succeed. But there's all these things working against you, all the time. Like it's tough. And you really don't know how hard it is until you get into it. I'm very sympathetic to other businesses, even when they screw up here and there. I'm not the guy who goes on Google and gives them a 1-star review. I'll send them a private email and just say, hey, like this happened. You probably want to know about it. Yeah. Right? Because you could, bust as much as you wanted to and work as hard as you wanted to, but like mistakes were still going to happen. Things were going to fall through the cracks, and then you're having to deal with that. So it was just learning like how we were going to operate, how businesses function, all that sort of thing, and trying to learn through going through the experience. So in a sense, it's almost been my business school in a way. In a sense, and but I mean, it's been a fantastic experience. I don't think we didn't really have any expectation on where it was going to go either. That was the other thing. We didn't know where it was going to go because we were only worried about, the next month or the next 6 months.
Got you.
What are we going to launch? Are we going to be around? There was many times where we thought, like, are we going to make it?
Really? Yeah.
But you can't say that. You can't give that impression. So one of the biggest challenges was is fake it till you make it. Like you had to keep a smile on your face. Yeah. And you always had to make sure that you gave the impression that it was a strong company. And I think it was in the sense of what we were trying to do. But, you weren't going to go and talk to the staff and be like, hey, don't know if we can pay you next week, Fortunately, we've never had to not ever been able to not pay somebody or anything like that. But, you can't talk about that. So a lot of it is internalizing like the struggles, the challenges of just the day-to-day of trying to figure it out. And when people have so much invested into it and it's their livelihood, you become a lot more emotional with it. Like the whole, it's not personal, it's just business. That doesn't make any sense if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the founders or the group of founders or anything, anywhere from top to the bottom, there's personal relationship. Work is your livelihood, right? So of course it's personal. You can't lay somebody off and tell them like, it's just business, it's not personal. You're affecting their lives personally. And a huge percentage of their time is spent working or at that company. So it was very personal, and just internalizing those struggles, having to stay confident and stay faithful and that like what you were doing was the right thing. And pushing forward and believing in it. And I mean that's still the case in some areas. I mean, we're very fortunate that again we have a lot of people sort of bought into what we were doing and like what we do, that we've been able to grow a lot faster than maybe we thought, and the business has been able to sustain itself for many years, which is a difficult thing to do as so many go out of business. So we've been very fortunate in that sense, and I think that's what kept us going, is that there are people who like to come here to work or like to come here to learn or create their music. They have now their own personal relationship with this brand that's totally separate of myself, of anybody else, And then you start to feel that responsibility that you have to sustain that connection and continue to improve it, right? And you can't let them down. So it's not like, there's that fear of letting anybody down.
Yeah.
Sort of all the time. Yeah. And trying to not necessarily pretend like you know everything. Yeah. But, coming across, like when people first came into the business when we first opened, they thought, is this the first one in Edmonton? Like their impression was that there was multiple locations. Were we across Canada? Were we in multiple cities? Some people thought we were a franchise or whatnot. And
that's a good impression then.
Yeah,
when you walk in, they think this is like a legit place.
Totally, yeah. And right away, we wanted to separate it from ourselves. Like as far as the founders and managers or anything like that, we wanted Resonate to be something that was going to encompass all of these people, and so the branding and everything like that was really, really important. The marketing was really important to make sure that it came off as very professional, very legitimate, very high quality. And not to say it wasn't. I mean, I think our teachers have been like top notch, since day one. But we wanted to make sure to give that impression. Yeah. But when you set the bar that high right off the bat,
you got to maintain that.
You have to maintain it, right? And you have to show that you can actually follow through. Yeah. That's a tough thing if you're trying to not only then tell yourself, okay, we're a major player in this industry, right? We can sustain this level of quality or we follow through, but also we have almost no experience in it. So we're learning as we're going to then tell you how we're going to do stuff. Yeah. Right. So that was really challenging. Like even when we launched a membership plan, which is sort of one thing that we're known for, is that we changed sort of the format. For the most part, lessons are offered like on a fixed term, like September through June, the school year.
Okay, right? Is that like...
That's pretty common.
That's common? Okay.
Yeah, that's common. That's sort of the industry norm. It's just like the regular schools, right? You go through September through June. You'd close in the summers. That was kind of it. You'd maybe have 1 or 2 recitals. It would be like in a hall, pretty standard. And then, teachers get laid off in the summers. Business essentially closes down. Maybe does like a very small like punch pass or something like that. A couple of camps. Yeah. We did not want to do that. And that was born out of both us trying to want to innovate and change, but also out of necessity of being like, we're going to go out of business in this summer. Our first summer, we're gone if we can't figure out a way to still keep people around at the same time. And also, who wants to lay off 90% of their staff and have them try to find seasonal work? Like that also seemed like a flaw in the industry to us. So we just wanted to sort of change that. But I mean, we launched that in the spring of 2013. So that's not even something we had right off the bat. We opened up a bit more similar to the kind of industry norms because we kind of had to work through it to figure out what could be changed or what could be improved. And when we launched in the spring, like I remember like personally speaking to almost every one of our customers to try to explain to them what this new program was or how we were operating, that it was month to month now. It was 12 months out of the year. So we were, you weren't going to have your spot saved in the fall just because you finished in June. You had to keep going if you still wanted that. Right. And, that was, it's still a little bit tough. Like, I mean, for the most part, people have gotten it, and we saw a lot of change in the industry of people sort of changing their formats to go year round, which I think is a great thing. Yeah. Because, again, that means more teachers can work 12 months of the year. There's a lot of people in the summers who want to learn. They should still have the opportunity to do so. So I think it's great that we're seeing that change, in general. But, that was a big thing, trying to convince people. We'd have people just stop showing up after June. And we're like, oh, no, we keep going. And they're like, what? I thought but it's the summer. Aren't you closed? Like, people are that set. The industry has been that similar for that period of time that it was just assumed. Even if they'd never taken lessons before, it was their first time, they assumed that was a format, even if we told them different. So it was a lot of just constant, sort of talking about this is what we're going to do. It is different. Mm-hmm. And it took quite a while for people to really get on board with that on how our format was going to be. So So I mean that's been as far as some of the business struggles and things like that. Just going through the learning curve, and then personally as well, because every time you have, if you're going so much off of like instinct, or confidence or work ethic, when you don't actually have the specific know-how, you're trying to learn on the fly. You really have to rely almost entirely on that, on just that I'm gonna work my tail off. I'm going to constantly try to learn about what it is we're doing. The mistakes are going to happen. I have to understand that and be okay with it and keep moving forward. And that can be really tough because the more failures you sort of have, the more mistakes you have, the more your sort of confidence and your instinct starts to come into question. Yeah. And I think as an entrepreneur, because I do think it's it's more of a way of thinking. Like, entrepreneurs aren't smarter than other people by any means. I think the smartest people usually work for other people. But it is sort of just a way of thinking. It's an approach. I think it's a nature. It's not really a job in that sense. I think I think it was always sort of in me, and it's just, I kind of figured out that's what I wanted to do. But you rely so heavily on instinct, because you can't, like, if we're sitting in my office right now and you come to me with a problem, like, I can't turn my chair around and ask somebody else. There's a wall there. It ends with me. Mm-hmm. And that can be the tricky thing, is having that responsibility, especially when you don't know the answer, but just knowing that, well, I'll try to find it out. Like, as long as we're always trying to figure it out, right? It's like driving a bus in the fog with, like, no map, and there's somewhere you're trying to get to, right? And you kind of have to figure out how to get there, and you have to make everyone else think that you know where you're going, right? But really, you don't know. You've got an idea, you got an inkling, but a lot of it is instinct. So having that come into question is tough. It can be, it can definitely be a lonely career choice. It's a career choice, a lifestyle choice in a sense. Especially when it's small. I mean, as you sort of grow and you can bring on more people and your team expands, and you get really great people, then it can help a lot. But in the early years, it can get pretty stressful, pretty lonely, where you start to question a lot of things. And then you just have to continuously remind yourself to push forward. But fortunately, we're in an industry where there's a lot of inspiration, like that I didn't even account or think about in the beginning. Like, the relationships we build with all of these people, these kids, adults, families, like, they're really not customers. We don't look at anybody as a customer.
It's not like a transaction. It's just like, it's more of a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And you build these, like, crazy, meaningful relationships where you become so close with so many people, and then you see the impact it makes, right? Or you see a student do a performance and their parents are crying watching it, and you're just like, they may not even know I exist. They don't know about what we've gone through to get to this point. They have a totally different relationship with what Resonate is, but it's obviously a meaningful one. And you start to see that, and that becomes your motivation. Again, just like sustaining that and keeping that going. So that's been, again, I wouldn't have expected it to that point, because it was never in it, right? You know, you think business, you just think, oh yeah, dollars and cents and logistics and operations and systems and things like that. And then you get into it, and then, again, just fortunately the industry that we're in, there's just so much meaningfulness, so much impact that can be made. So that's been like a major thing.
So when you were building it your first year with your team, and obviously certain things would come up, problems and issues.
Sure.
When your confidence would take a hit, you would look for different inspiration, external inspiration, like online, like other business owners. Like, what would you do to keep yourself going through times where, like, oh, we might not make it this summer? What was that thing to keep you internally motivated to be like, okay, like, I gotta figure this out, and I gotta figure this out now?
Absolutely. I mean, there'd be a variety of things that would sort of help. I mean, one, I do believe in education, funny enough, like, being someone who got so disenchanted with school and didn't care about school at all, and I still have a big problem with how high school is formatted and the whole education system. And maybe this is just a precursor to moving into that one day and trying to impact change on the education system as a whole. That I ended up, starting a school that's now bigger than any school I ever attended, which is very strange. But no, just like self-education, whether that be books, online, YouTube videos, motivational stuff, whatever, looking to other entrepreneurs, realizing that struggle is part of the process. That's something that I think you often have to remind yourself of, is that like, rarely does anyone land on a unicorn where they're just like rocket ship to the top. Everything goes super smoothly, everybody has had severe failures where it feels like things are just crash and burn and you're done, and it comes back. And just like reminding yourselves of those like moments end up being better. Like, literally the worst times of my life ended up spurring the best times. And again, super cliche, and you hear people say that and you think, whatever, it's BS. But it's true if that's what your attitude is. I think if you can pull yourself out, I think willpower is like super important. So just that, and just a stubbornness, not to want to fail. I know failure is a better teacher than success. You'll often hear that, but failure still sucks. I still avoid it like the plague. I don't want to. I've learned the most through it, but I still don't want to go through it. So just reminding yourself of that. So that would help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And just not wanting to like lose it all, even from a self-conscious standpoint. I mean, it sucks to fail at something or have it quit. Like I couldn't imagine it being us having to close the doors and say like it didn't work. I didn't want to go back to trying to figure that out again and know where to go. Like that was so strong that it was like, no, we'll figure something out. We'll get around it.
Right.
Even if that means I gotta swipe my own credit card and max it out to make sure we can pay people the next week or next payroll, I'll worry about that later. You kind of have to put everyone else in front of yourself, type of thing. You think like running a company or owning a company, you're sort of at the top, right? And it's sort of like everything kind of trickles down, but it's totally the reverse, right? You're on the bottom. You're the ultimate support system to make sure that everybody else can sort of succeed because the buck stops with you, right? So I mean, just going off of that, and then like I said, the biggest inspiration was just the staff and the students that were already there, not wanting to let them down, right? People often say like they're so much more motivated, let's say if they have kids or they have a family, because they have people who are relying on them. Yeah. And at this time, I'm single, no kids.
How old were you at this point?
When we started, 23.
Wow. Okay.
23 when we started Resonate.
Yeah.
I'm 29 now. So there was a lot of sort of the youth being an issue. Like that was the thing people didn't really realize is like Resonate was basically like started and run by a few 20-year-olds.
Yeah. And a lot of 20-year-olds at that point would be in university, they're drinking, they're partying, they're having fun. A lot of them don't really know where they're going. They have an idea.
Sure.
And then you decide to, as a lot of entrepreneurs do, decide to take that big risk. And at this point, like, I'm just curious because, again, like I said, a lot of 20-year-olds don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if they do, then they found something that they love or they found a career path where they just want to keep building up.
Totally.
When you made that decision, why, like, I'm sure you gave up a lot of things. Like a lot of, like, your social life probably wasn't.
Gone. Zero.
Yeah. You probably
zero.
had nothing. So, and obviously you made that decision internally. So why was that a big thing for you at that point in your life? You could have taken a year off and figured things out and kind of, like you said, take it step by step, but you decided, let's
it was just whatever reason I just sort of clicked. I was just sort of ready to go, and I had sort of been fairly financially responsible up until that point because that was an area that I was interested in, and was sort of ready to put everything that I had into this, whether that was like working for nothing for a long time or investing anything that I had into the business. It was just that's the way it's going to go. Like family, friends, that was kind of gone. And that was another struggle, is because unless people are sort of in your position, they don't quite understand what it's like. And I don't mean that just for entrepreneurs. That's literally the case for everybody, right? Like you never know what somebody is dealing with or what they're going through, and so you shouldn't judge them. But it was a tough thing because not only were there a lot of people who sort of doubted it in a sense and thought like you're insane, for trying this. For one, but then they couldn't understand why why can't you come out? Why can't we hang out? Or why can't you come over for these family dinners? Or why are you missing this and that? You look like garbage. you're losing weight, and you look like you haven't slept in days, which was the case. And that's a tough thing because you're constantly having like to convince people of what you're doing is right, but then at some point you have to stop caring about that, and because otherwise then you start having to convince yourself of that what you're doing is right. And that's really hard when you have a lot of the sort of negativity coming in to block that, to sort of cut those things off. So I mean, for same thing, like a couple of years, I just really didn't see people very much. It's like, you want to see me, come by Resonate, that's where I'll be. Like, this is where I always am, night and day. So that was a challenge for sure. In that sense.
Yeah. So when did it like really take off? Like obviously the first couple of years were a little rocky. Yeah. You're still figuring stuff out. You're going through this sharp learning curve. Yeah. When was it a point where you're like, okay, I'm kind of getting this now. Yeah. I kind of know sort of what I'm doing, but I'm still learning. Yeah. Yeah. When did it kind of like figure out, okay, this is going now? Things are starting to kind of click.
Right. Yeah.
When was that? When was that point?
Oh man, I don't even know if we've hit that yet. No, I think to a point. Yeah, we have. I mean,
Yeah.
So the first year, again, like I said, we opened up at those the 9 rooms in the recording studio because again we wanted to it wasn't just the lessons, but we also wanted to offer like affordable, high quality recording as well. So we kind of had this hybrid model where the school kind of subsidized to have the studio around so that we could offer a really high level of quality recordings for artists who maybe didn't have a really big budget, but also to create a retail formatted recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of like your everyday average Joe or Joan, maybe wants to make a song. Maybe has this dream of recording their favorite song or one that they wrote. Maybe they got a few kids, they're, middle-aged, but they want to do something like that.
Yeah.
There's not really anywhere to go in that sense, right? Because often they're destination locations, studios work with serious artists. Often that's not really a thing you can do. So we wanted to kind of open up to everybody. Because just on my own experience, and you sort of know this as well, being in the studio can be so therapeutic, it's so creative, it's awesome to do. Whether you're super talented or not, it can be a lot of fun. So we wanted to have like a retail recording studio in that sense so that anybody could come in and record, which was really cool. So again, we sort of wanted to keep both of those kind of going. But within 6 months, like the enrollment really happened a lot faster probably than expected. But it's hard to say expected because we didn't have projections or forecasts or expectations of what was going to happen. We just every day focused on trying to make it as good as we could and improve it all the time. And that's still the case. Like everything we do is subject to change at any point in time if it means improving the overall experience for the staff and our clients. But within 6 months, we renovated one of the washrooms to turn it into a lesson room and our staff room to turn it into a lesson room. So we went from 9 to 11 rooms in like half a year, which was really, really quick. Yeah. And then, a few months after that, we knocked out my office and created the iPad bar and expanded the merch area because the lobby was getting so tight with people.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity came up to expand into the neighbor space as well. And that meant basically doubling in size. But there was the opportunity that we sort of saw that if things kept going the way they were going, like after a couple of years, we had, 400 students or something. And because the majority of our growth sort of, happens in those kind of early years, catching on. And the opportunity came up and we thought, do we take it? It's too early. Like it's for sure too early as far as the resources that we have, our operations. But we may lose this opportunity. Somebody else might move into the space. What if they signed a 10-year lease and then it's gone? And then what if we, we're packed in here like a sardine and we just are, hitting the walls. We can't grow anymore. So that was a massive decision and we decided to expand. So that was only 2 years in and we doubled in size and opened up the largest school.
Wow.
Around, like one of the largest in Canada with 18 lesson rooms, doubled the size of the recording studio.
And I actually remember that. Funny thing is, because I used to come by when
when it was the smaller one.
It was 2013 or 2014.
Yep. Yeah, we were in 2013.
And then I came back after a while and there's a whole nother space. I was like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah. And that was that was a major risk for sure. We were rolling the dice and that made it really difficult. Again, biting off more than you can chew. Because it was just, we weren't 100% ready for it yet, right? Like, again, whether it was software or operations, all that. Those sort of things needed to probably improve first. Mm-hmm. But the opportunity was there. And I've always been of the mindset that the opportunity is there. You say yes now and you figure it out later. That's not the best advice all the time. Like, it's not super smart and I don't advise everyone to take that advice.
Yeah.
But that's just always been our approach. The opportunity to say, yes, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. It might be brutal for a few years, and it was. But we took it, and it was the right move. Because now we're at a point where, like, we're nearing capacity, 4 out of the 7 days a week, where we're using every single room. Wow. And now we're looking, okay, do we have to move, administrators out again? Like, for, half a year, I didn't even work in the building. I worked across the street in another office space.
Oh, wow.
Because I needed to move out to make more space for the operations of the business and for the people. So I was like, coming back and forth, had cameras so that I could see if it was busy, if I needed to answer the phones as well. And just sort of work there until I could move back over once we expanded. And now we're in a situation where we're maybe looking at that, do we have to do that again?
Yeah.
Don't know. So
now, do you have your hands in everything? I know when you first started, you have your hands in everything with production, the school, marketing, operations. Mm-hmm. Are you still kind of dipping your feet into everything, or does your team kind of have certain roles and certain things? And do you have a certain role with Resonate right now, or do you kind of are you kind of like the guy that obviously you're the last end of support?
Sure.
But are you kind of handling everything? Are you diving in, making sure that every kind of piece, every kind of thing is kind of going well, or do you kind of stick to the back end of things and operations?
Sure. So like in the beginning, you definitely have to wear a lot of hats. So all the marketing, like the space too. I mean, it's sort of a pro and a con in the sense that it's way too much work. So you end up doing just like maybe a subpar job in a lot of areas versus doing a really good job in a few, which is now what we try to more focus on.
Yeah.
But that's born out of necessity in the beginning because you don't have the money to hire a bunch of people. So, you've got to basically work for nothing and do a whole bunch of jobs. Now, you kind of multiple full-time jobs, but unfortunately that means that you're probably going to do a subpar job of most of it. And that was often the case with me, I think. But in the beginning, that's just sort of how it went. I mean, as far as the recording side and the recording studio goes, from the day we opened, I never recorded a client or was doing that anymore. Like that was sort of the end, which is funny because that's the side I really enjoyed. Right? It was like creating music. It was making music. I really loved that. And then as soon as we actually opened Resonate, I didn't touch an instrument. I didn't do anything musically, anymore. It was more my role to make sure that we were going to operate, that we were going to function, right? And kind of having a hand in everything. So Justin was pretty much the guy in the studio, doing all that. Obviously, I'd help with the marketing, but from the accounting to, helping out with the front desk, because we were open 7 days a week. So for at least, I think 4 years, 5 years maybe 4 of the 6 years we've been open, I was 7 days a week. 18, 20 hours a day type of thing. Like it was just, you basically lived there and would still be behind, but that's just, that was the way it goes. Like, people kept coming in, which was awesome. Yeah. And we needed to figure out how to support that. So, fortunately, I would say maybe over just, the last couple of years, the team has gotten really strong. We've had the ability to properly specialize. It's really hard to get the right group together. Like you're so reliant on your people. We're such a people-based business. Yeah. Right? Like that really is our backbone, from the teachers to administrators and management and everything. So where the last couple of years, I feel like we've sort of come into our own a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. Where people sort of know what they're doing. And I mean, I have a really good group. I trust them, completely to do the job. I'm not a micromanager in that sense. I'm probably maybe too far the other way to a fault sometimes, where I kind of want to give people the ability to just like set them up for success, help how I can. Sometimes, could help more than usual, but just give them the ability to do what they want, because that's what I wanted when I was, working in a place. There's nothing worse than being told what to do by someone who you believe is more incompetent, than you are. Yeah. So like, I don't tell teachers how to teach. I don't know how to I'm not a teacher, right? I have an idea of how somebody may want to be taught or what the overall experience could be like. Yeah. Because anybody could tell you that, like, what do you really want out of a customer experience, right? That's sort of my role, is to figure what that is. Yeah. And then make it. But I mean, our teachers are, university educated, and, they're incredible at what they do. And that's why they do what they do. I'm not in there, the people who we have working the front and managing all the lessons and the scheduling, they're far better at it than me. For the time periods where I had to do it, that's, we were not providing the best service that we could, because that's sort of not my skill set. So, but sometimes you have no other choice, right? If you can't find the right people, then you have to sort of do it yourself. But we never wanted to keep it going that way. But I feel like in the last couple of years, we've really started to get a fairly decent handle on it. Yeah. On how we want to operate, because you just learn so much. And what do you want your company to be like? What even is it? Yeah. How is it going to function? What do you want the work experience to be like?
The culture.
Yeah, the culture. That's massive. Trying to just create that, especially again when it's different and your formatting is different. Like, you have to want to work at Resonate. Like, not just, I want to teach music or teach at a music school. Yeah. Like, Resonate has to be the right fit for the person. Like, when we interview people, we make sure that, like, they're interviewing us as much as we're interviewing them, and make sure, like, come shadow here, come hang out here. Like,
now, was that off the bat?
No. Oh, okay. I wish we would have done that sort of stuff, but we just don't know, right? Yeah. So we've learned so much.
Yeah. How difficult was that to bring a team of people together? Yeah. To believe in this thing that wasn't really a thing until obviously now. Totally. Obviously, the years that you've built it, but how difficult was to get the right pieces in play? I mean, I call pieces, but people, the right fit, and get people to believe in that, in the vision and the culture.
Totally, yeah. It's super tough because one of the things that is key to that is communication, right? And that's one thing that I've definitely learned is I could be, or whoever, say, is leading a company. You might be in your office or at home or whatever, or just in your head thinking of all these things like how you want the company to perform, or how you want it to behave, or how you want it to function, or what your vision is. But if you're not communicating that, you can't just assume that just because people are working there that they also get that, or know where it's going. They may think things are stagnant. They may think that the experience that how it currently is, which, I don't think it was ever bad. But, it's just, is this how it's going to stay? Where we're always looking at ways on how we're going to improve it. So there'll be things that are coming 3, 6, 9, 12 months, down the road to make the experience better for everybody. So trying to keep people in the loop without saying everything, because some things don't work, some things fall through, right? So some of the stuff is just ideas and they're just concepts until they actually materialize. So that's a pretty tough thing, but that's just a part of developing a reputation where I feel like the right people apply because they know about what we do and who we are, and they either that connects with them, it resonates with them, throw that in there. That had to happen once in this conversation, right? And it connects with them, which is really good. So it's allowed us to have this incredibly strong group of, nearly 40 people and growing. We're just amazingly talented and skilled people who have really sort of bought into what it is that we're trying to do and where it is that we want to go. And we don't necessarily know that 100% because that's always changing. So, people have to be okay with that, with the change. That's one of the biggest things when someone comes on. Like, you have to be ready to embrace change. You have to be okay with change. We don't stay the same for very long. And we want people to be able to provide ideas, right? Not feel like that just, this is your role, stick to that. Like, even the people who work here, who have worked here over the time that we've been open, their roles have changed. Everyone's sort of roles have changed multiple times. As we start to, or get a better grasp on how to figure out what's the right role for people, right? Or as their life changes, is there a way that we can change with them to create new sort of positions and things like that? Like, we've got positions within the company that I don't know that any music school has, that we never expected to have, but they were just sort of born out of, whether it's, again, changing situations with us, with the people who work there, with opportunities that came up, with ideas and ways to improve. So, we've always been a place that sort of reinvested pretty heavily into the business constantly. I think that's why there's been so much change and so much growth, is we're just always reinvesting back in, to sort of create these areas. And now we're looking at things way down the road, or we're investing in stuff that's not so clear what the return is or when it's going to happen. But you're kind of going off instinct, like, I feel like this is important, and start investing in areas that don't just benefit us, but benefit the industry as a whole. Right? Because we understand, and I think this is the case in most businesses, maybe not like Amazon, but we know we're not going to service everybody. Right, there's like 1 million plus people in the Edmonton area. Not everyone who's going to want to learn music is going to come to us. That's not possible. We could, even if they wanted to, we couldn't accommodate it. Right, not realistic. So there has to be options. We want to see growth in the industry as a whole, because the whole idea is to inspire people to bring music into their lives. And I think that's the purpose of a lot of businesses, is whatever that product or service you're offering, you want to inspire people to make it a part of their life, because that's good for the whole sort of industry. So that's sort of the way that we kind of look at it, is just always locking in on the experience, try to make things as good as we can in-house, try to improve as much as we can. If it ends up benefiting the industry as a whole at the same time, great. Versus just looking at, what's so-and-so doing, how can,
like direct, like, what's my competitors doing, what do
I like even that, I mean, I like, we're aware of, so, quote unquote competition or competitors in that sense, but we don't look at it that way at all. We don't obsess about it, we check in here or there, so-and-so's doing this, so okay, that's great. But we know what we want to do. We've picked the 2-3 things that we think we can be good at. We narrow in on those, and the things that we obsess about are, our customers, who, like I said, have sort of become extended family, and we obsess about them and about the experience and about improving that, and we don't really worry about too much what everybody sort of else is doing.
And kind of going off of that, talking about kind of not just yourself, when did the foundation start? When did the foundation start? When was that kind of a thing? And then
For sure. So, the foundation is still very much in its infancy. Starting charities is a lot more difficult than just starting a company. There's just so much more red tape and things, holes and hoops that you have to jump through, and it's a much more drawn out process because now you're more at the timelines of governments and things like that, which has been a bit of a frustrating process a little bit, because I'm used to, like, we want to do something, we do it now, right? Like, just being on your own terms and being able to move forward with something, right?
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. We'll just let's go. So, how that sort of came, community has always been a really important aspect and part of what we do. I think within the first year, actually one of the teachers that we have had a music school as well. She ended up closing it and joining with us, and she's still with us to this day and is a key part of what we do. And she had a fundraiser called Play for Pets, where she would raise money for the Edmonton Humane Society. And when she came over, one of the things is she wanted to still be able to do that, or run her her fundraising concert. Yeah, and I love that idea. I have a very small dog. He's like my kid, basically. So I have a soft spot for animals. I thought that was great. And we always wanted to have a community aspect in it. So we wanted to take that, sort of grow it as well, and that became the Play for Pets concerts we did at West Ed, which is the one that Ed Sheeran
that's crazy
famously accidentally showed up to, and which was a bit of a whirlwind. So we had that going for quite some time, but then, like, not too long after, I think we ran Play for Pets for maybe 2 or 3 years, and I think combined raised around $50,000 for the Edmonton Humane Society. So not a gigantic amount of money, but a sizable amount that I believe made a difference. But the problem was that this is also, we're thinking around the time of kind of the economic downturn, right? And oil prices dropping, and this is when we were expanding too. That was the other reason. We'd be like, are you sure you want to expand? The economy's poor. Yeah. And I'm hearing the same things now, and I'm kind of, well, you have to make the decision whether you're just going to sit on your hands and wait for things to get good, or do you want to create your own situation and make it good and be a part of that sort of positive change. But outside of that, again, we were seeing people who were having to drop due to financial difficulties, and it was increasing, like, more and more and more that this was happening. And it was so tough because, again, we developed these relationships with these people, and you want to help them. But we're, like, not in a position to help. We're barely making any money. I'm broke. I wish I could do something. And giving them free lessons, that, like, the economics of that doesn't really work. Mm-hmm. You can't just we'll drop the prices, because you're not going to be able to drop it a substantial amount enough that is going to make the difference for them. That isn't going to now make it so you can't operate. Right, you can't pay your rent and taxes and payroll and all those sorts of things. All those costs that keep going up every year and keep shrinking your available margin to even work with. So it became this sort of issue where, like, how do we solve it? And we would have people come in too that were sort of in a lower income bracket, and were asking us, is there any government subsidies? Are there programs? And there wasn't really anything. And there was the child tax credit, or arts credit, but I think that's gone now. They got rid of that, which is a shame. They cut it in half, and then now I think it's gone. So there was really, like, no opportunity for relief, financial relief for those people. So we thought, well, community is obviously a part of what we do, and that we always want to do. But, and Play for Pets is great, but there's a clear need in our own industry to help support these people. And both those who are sort of in more of, say, like, a longer term, low income financial situation, and those who also just need temporary relief, right? Maybe they were, like, fairly good income earners, but and you adjust to that lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you're laid off, and then you're cutting from everything, and the last thing people want to cut from is their kids. And then when they're having to do that, that's hard. And a lot of people will be honest with you and tell you, but a lot of people mask it as well. But you can still sort of tell. So we said we wanted to fix that, in some capacity. So that was the main reason for then starting the Resonate Music Foundation. Was let's create something that can provide this relief. I think people would donate to this, and people could also use the resources. And the intention wasn't to just relieve students who were coming to Resonate, but again, the industry, the community as a whole, right? Obviously, it's going to start on a more local sort of basis, and whether that's Edmonton and then Alberta, and then we want to take it across Canada. We eventually want to take it global. And it's been really exciting in that so many people have come to us and want to be a part of it. And it's just, again, sort of going through the motions to then be able to provide that relief. So now the Resonate Music Foundation, so it's a total volunteer effort. my wife Sarah, who works at Resonate as well, and is sort of my partner in crime and everything. And we'd be screwed without her for sure. She's the president of the foundation, so she really runs that as well. We've got the board is a great team of individuals who have really come together and really connect with what we want to do. And so we started that, and at the same time started the Light Your Sound Resonate concert series. So any concert or like performance or anything we do, we always attach some sort of community aspect to it. So like the ticket sales, we donate. Right, we keep nothing of that. We all go. It's volunteer. It's free. That sort of thing, and we would donate it. So even our recitals, the ticket goes to the Resonate Music Foundation. And then 2 years ago, we started the Light Your Sound Resonate concert series, and that was to give students the opportunity to be able to play in bands or learn how to play in bands without having to pay hundreds of dollars a month, because that was sort of the norm, right? If you want to learn how to play in a band, you're going to take a separate program. They're going to put 3 or 5 of you together and teach you all together at once. And because that's going to be a separate thing, obviously they have to charge for it. Makes sense. But we wanted to try and do it in a way that how could we offer this opportunity not to 5, 10, or 15 people, because again we have the space limitations at this point. But how can we offer it to 100 or more kids and put on like a serious full-fledged production show, which you've now seen and attended, and it's no joke, and people think like, oh, it's going to be another like student recital, and then you see a 30-piece band with a string section and 2 drummers on 4-foot stage risers and full lighting production and everything like that. And so it allowed us to sort of offer this once in a lifetime sort of opportunity every single year. It's something that brought us all together. The parents, the people who are attending, the students who of all ages. We've got adults, like our oldest lead singer in the first one was like in his 60s, and he was the lead singer in this band, and his guitarist is like 8. Because of the way we sort of design it, you can get a mix of skill levels and ages. So it's just this amazing thing, and then all the money that we raise off of that was then going to go to goes to the Resonate Music Foundation. So whether it be sponsorships, ticket sales, so it ends up being an enormous amount of work. I think that basically each year takes like that year to plan and go with. But
that's its own separate
beast
to manage.
Totally. And now that we started, we're always trying to grow that. So, our first show had 500 people in the audience, and just under 500 and sold out. And that was our first show. Our second show, that was 700 people, and it's just kind of growing from there and adding different aspects and. Who knows what kind of venues that's going to be in. It sounds silly, but like, Rogers Place. Could we ever get in there one day? Maybe. Yeah. Like, I think it's a show that the city needs to know about. Not just the people who are within our own little community at Resonate. Yeah. But we want to create like this annual event that raises piles of money to help a lot of people and then provide this experience. And again, we make nothing off it. We don't even charge a program fee for it. It's like $25. That's like for rehearsals to pay teachers to be there. But like as Resonate as a whole, it's nothing. Again, that was another thing where it's like, are we crazy for doing this? Why are we doing these things that don't generate us any extra revenue or these programs and are so much work? Yeah. But to us, it was, if we're investing in the experience and in the community as a whole, we thought, word will spread about what we're doing, and people will want to include this experience or make this a part of their lives. Or if this inspires somebody to want to learn music, whether it's with us or not, obviously, ideally, I'd like it to be with us. But if it can't be, at least they're still bringing that into their life, and I do believe that's going to improve their life. And even like with adults, like music has always been so therapeutic for me. Yeah. And now we see so many adults who use it as well. Yeah. Whether they're going through something, they just want to come and scream their head off of their favorite song for an hour, like whatever. We're not going to judge you. We'll sort of build it around whatever your interests are. So so the foundation is sort of off of that. Again, it's very much in its infancy, and it is a side project. With all the full-time jobs that we have at Resonate, this is something we also have to do in addition to that time. So, and everyone who's involved is, got their own things going on, but it's a good team, and we're very excited about it. Like, even if Resonate at the school and the recording studio has a limit or a glass ceiling of how far it can realistically expand, whether that's in its current space or multiple locations or cities or whatever. Yeah. The foundation is the one that can really grow and really make an impact on potentially a global scale, right? Like definitely on a national scale. I think that's realistic, maybe in 5-10 years or something like that, because we want it to work with schools all around the province, the country, the world, and to be able to provide this relief and it's not something that's limited to a certain location or a certain space. So the foundation is the one that could really make a massive impact, I think, and really even grow beyond Resonate of what it currently is. So, when we started, we didn't think we were going to start our own charity, on the side, at the same time, or be doing these big concerts. So there's just been so many things, and those are just a few examples of stuff that we never expected, imagined, or planned, in those early years, but are now all of a sudden are real things. So, and you find yourself, again, have we bitten off more than we can chew? But you just kind of work your way through it. And every day is just trying to make it better, and
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I want to end off on two questions. One, out of your whole entrepreneurial experience and with Resonate, with everything that you've kind of went through to build what Resonate is with your team, what's one lesson or one thing that you can really like pinpoint and take out of that? Maybe give our audience here maybe something that they can learn from you. One thing that maybe anyone can really relate to, or let's just say someone wants to get into music, or there's kids or adults who want to get into music somehow, or maybe want to take a business route, or they don't know, they're trying to figure their life out a little bit. Your experience, one thing that they can take away from.
That's obviously tough.
I know there's multiple things.
And everyone's situation's obviously going to be different. One thing I do think is you do have to be true to yourself, right? And sort of, not to quote the Philadelphia 76ers here, but trust the process, in a sense, that is sort of very true. Do something that you believe in, because it's going to be way more work than you expect. It always is. If you want to make meaningful impact in something, it's probably going to be way more work. Be ready to sacrifice things, really take a hard look at it and decide, is this something that I want to do? You can learn from others. You don't necessarily need a mentor, though I'm sure that's invaluable. I haven't really ever had one to a point, a bit in the dealership, and that was probably some of the best experience I ever had, and I learned a lot, and I still use that to this day. But people have the opportunity to have mentorships and all that. It's probably great. But dig into books, and YouTube videos and whatever, and try to learn. The world's information is on the internet. You don't necessarily need to go and pay tens of thousands of dollars to learn something anymore. The world is changing in that sense. So, if you want to do it, if you got to be ready to work your tail off, really, and sacrifice, but make sure it's something that you're true to yourself, and don't chase it for the money. Don't do it for the money. This is not, especially, in this example, Resonate. This is not a big money business by any means. It's an impact business, and you're rewarded by the relationships you create, the difference you make, and the experiences you sort of have with it. That is by far the most valuable thing, and that adds so much to your life. My expectations in the beginning to now have totally changed. My interpretation of what business was in my maybe teen years was more of a monetary sense, was more materialistic, but I realize now it was more about being a creative. I do think entrepreneurs are creatives. I do think they're artists. I think business is an art form. I think it's looked at a lot of times in the wrong way, as it's just looked at from dollars and cents. Yeah,
especially nowadays with it being so glamorized. It looks very fancy. A lot of people are showing off they have boats and money, and
and you think everybody who owns a business is rich, and
or sitting at a beach working 3 hours, and that's the entrepreneurial life. But it's probably totally opposite of that from what I know.
That might be the goal one day, or that might be the situation one day, but it's very often not the case. In the beginning years. So I do think that, for me, there is definitely a creative nature there through the arts. Just whether it be music or whatever, or, drawing. I've always loved that stuff, and I think business, in a sense, it can get, and being an entrepreneur gives you the ability to create something from nothing. And I do think the private sector and entrepreneurs and companies are the best platform to make an impact and to impact change and make a difference, whether that's positive or negative. A lot you may see a negative change, but that's because we really have a lot of opportunity for influence. So don't take that for granted, and you really can do something here. And especially in Edmonton, I do think this is a city where if you want to do something, you can. It's not intimidating in the sense of you feel like every sector, every industry is already dominated and you can't make a difference. I love this city in the sense that I've never felt like, okay, if I want to do something, there's too many roadblocks.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like you could do it here. So this city is great. You know, every area is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
But seeing it in that sense, you know, and then maybe on the other, just a super long-winded answer, but you know, the side of like entrepreneur stuff is something I'm really passionate about, because I would like to change the perception a little bit. Again, like we sort of talked about, that every business owner is rich or whatnot, but you know, from the consumer side, to just be understanding that people, when you're dealing with somebody in a business and products, and obviously we do every single day, they're just people, you know. For whatever reason, when we stick a desk in between us or a counter and a transaction is made, it's like all of a sudden we're not as human as we were prior to that. And I think that causes a lot of people stress, not only business owners, but the employees who have to actually deal with those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I think generally people need to be a little bit more, I don't know, accepting of that fact that we're all just people, we're all just trying to do stuff, we're all just trying to make a change, and nobody's sort of perfect at it.
Yeah.
But if you're somebody who wants to go a certain route, you know, chasing money, that runs out as far as its meaningfulness pretty quickly, right? You could have lots of money, but not a lot of meaningful relationships, and that's not going to be such a great lifestyle. Yeah. And that's something I've definitely learned. Yeah. Where my priorities maybe in my early years would have been to have an enormous house and a ton of cars, and I mean, I still love cars, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you know, it was more about that. And now I look at it and be like, wow, like the people I've met, the people I work with, the work that we do, if it just stayed exactly as it is, awesome. You know, there's so much that you can get out of that. So there's going to be a lot that I think people won't expect, you know, but I think just trying to make an impact, stay true to what your interests are and who you are, you know, and what your passion is. I mean, that being said, it's not like open-ended, again, cliche advice. You still have to be good. Yeah. You still have to have a good idea. You still have to have sound principles.
Yeah, you still got to show up.
Yeah, you still have your financials still have to be together. Like, it has to be good, right? Yeah. It's not like that thing of like, you know, follow your dreams and they'll come true for sure. Like, unfortunately, that's not always the case for everybody. Yeah. A lot of people fail and it turns into nothing.
Yes.
But you know, most people are going to tell you no. Most people are going to try to knock you down. If you believe that it's truly whatever you're doing is the right way to go, then just stick to it. And people say, you know, cut them out and just move forward. Sometimes you have to be a little cutthroat in that sense of cutting away the people who, or the things that get in the way of where you really want to go and how you want to be. But yeah, I mean, just going with that. Try and learn as much as you can. You know, don't maybe don't go in head first all the time.
Don't say yes and then figure it out.
Yeah,
after.
Again, there's people out there who are willing to help.
Yeah.
And once you get in it too, it can be such a struggle. So know that there's people out there who you can talk to and you can help and to get through and learn a lot to go through that process. Yeah. I think I would. That's something sort of I'm learning as well, that you don't it doesn't have to be, you know, so much of just in your own head figuring things out. So. Yeah, I don't know.
Sweet.
I don't know if there's anything out of that to pull, but
there was a lot.
There was a lot.
I think my last question is going to be, where do you see? I'm sure you have big plans, and I'm sure that could take a run in a couple months. You could take Resonate somewhere else, but where do you see Resonate? Where do you see Resonate in 5-10 years? What would you like it to be?
Sure. Yeah,
I guess currently right now.
Yeah. No, honestly, that's a question I really don't have an answer for, because I don't really have 5-year plans. Okay. Like, we don't do a 5-year business plan all the time, or renew our next like 2-3 years plans. I mean, like a couple years to get an idea, forecasts and things and programs that we might want to do, and when it's realistic, but it's already changed so much. Yeah. You know, that might actually tie into the last question too. If you're doing a plan, don't waste your time doing a 10-year business plan of what your business is going to look like. Because like in 6 months, it's not going to be long. It's going to totally change because there's so much information you don't have yet that you'll sort of figure out later on. So I don't know. I don't really have plans in that sense. I mean, I obviously want to see Resonate. It would be great if it continues to grow, and you know, maybe it's somewhere we end up being. And people always talking to us, you're going to expand to other cities. You know, maybe you know, or maybe we just go to in other areas in the industry where we feel we can impact change, or maybe we get more into the education sector. I do sometimes you dream. I think about Resonate being this sort of faction that sort of encompasses a bunch of different things that have to do with music. And I don't mean just like, oh, we're going to have retail, right? Because that's not really our thing. We don't really have a store component, which is another thing that kind of made us a bit unique. But I mean, like maybe whether it's music therapy or just like creating this sort of hub where it's just a creative space. Maybe it's not completely to do with music all the time, you know? Like we do a lot of in-house sort of development of our staff. Like we try to make sure our teachers, when they come there, they have the opportunity to become better teachers, not just through experience, but through some of the initiatives that we are developing in-house. You know, so kind of doing that maybe just on a larger scale, you know, with the rock school curriculum that we're bringing in. That's not just for us. Like we're the representatives for the entire Alberta region. I want every school and teacher, if it's the right fit for their student, to bring this in and help them, you know, create that sort of benefit as well. So, yeah, I don't really know where it's going to go. It's changed so much. I mean, personally, like as an entrepreneur, I do know that is in my nature. I do feel as though I like to start things, right? I like to build them up. I think part of the reason we have so much change is just because of my nature. I just can't stay content, and I'll get bored very quickly. Yeah. So we're constantly adding things and changing things. So that's, I think it's sort of like the kind of trickle down. Yeah. You know, sort of culture in that sense. So, you know, I would like to, if there's opportunity to create improvement and we can be a part of that improvement and part of that impact, then I think we'll be right there. What that opportunity is going to be, I don't know until it shows up, and you know, but just keeping your eyes open for it all the time, because a lot of times there's opportunity all over the place. Just kind of have to pick the ones that you think make the most sense. So I don't know.
Well, I'm excited. I've seen what you've done over the last couple of years, and it's just inspiring for me as a creative and as someone who's trying to do his own, like my own thing on the side. And I'm sure a lot of people who are going to listen to this are going to take a lot of inspiration if they don't know your story. One thing is, where can people find you online, social media? If they want to maybe reach out to you, maybe add in some plugins.
No, absolutely. I mean, as far as Resonate goes, we're everywhere. You know, Facebook and Instagram are the two big ones. Honestly, the only reason I even have Facebook is because of the business. I think personally I wouldn't have it if it wasn't. But social media is like, can be this great thing, but it's also, you know, we're very much in this sort of battle with that. But on Instagram at Resonate Music, on YouTube at Resonate Music School and Studio, Facebook Resonate Music School and Studio, resonatemusic.ca, all areas you can check out. I can be reached through all those. I'm on Instagram as well as Mr. Cathrea, and that's basically it. But I mean, if you want to find me, come to Resonate or call. You know, send an email or whatever, and talk. And if people want to talk about, I love talking about business. Like there's so much I don't know by a long shot. So I'm always sort of a little careful about giving advice per se, but I'm always open to having conversations with people, and because most likely I'll learn just as much from them as they might learn from me in that sense. So if I can help, you know, up and coming entrepreneurs and try to explain to them some of the mistakes that I've made and learned from, right, so that they maybe don't have to make it, that's awesome. Like I'm always willing to have those conversations and help those people, because I think you have to, giving back is a big part of what we do, and what I want to do. So anything through there, reach your channels, hit me up, and we can chat.
Sweet.
Yeah, man.
Well, I've enjoyed this, man. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. This is very cool. I love everything that you're doing. Like I said, we've known each other for a while. I've seen your sort of, you know, your creative products grow and expand, and it's really fun and exciting to watch what you've been doing, and it's it's awesome. I think you're doing great work, and just, you know, keep at it. And I'm honored to be here and to be one of your guests for sure.
No, I appreciate it. Cool, Thanks for coming on the second floor.
Thank you.
Yeah.